So first off, welcome everybody for joining us for our second edition this month of Conversations for the Future. My name is Meredith Garofalo, and I am your host this morning. I am a certified broadcast meteorologist and a space and science correspondent for News 12, based in the New York City area. I love space. I love moderating panels about space, and I love getting conversations going about space. And so I really enjoyed the opportunity to be the host of these events and introduce you to some amazing people that you're going to have some great conversations with. And hopefully for everybody that's watching, we'll get a conversation going, or it'll spark a question that you've been thinking of to add to what we are talking about. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to a fantastic hostess with the mostest. Right now, joining us, we have Inara, who is also known as the Galaxis Gal. Inara Tabir is a science communicator and aerospace connector. She is the president of the Multiplanetary Society and executive director of Gaze in Space. Her work focuses on bridging the public and industry to secure our future in space. Coffee on the Moon is the new monthly segment, and it has been great so far. We've had so many good conversations. And if you missed part one of last week, you don't have to worry, because now in society, we record everything, and you can actually go to any of Foundation for the Future's social media channels, and you can watch it again. Now, in this monthly segment, Inara will be holding interviews to discuss our monthly topic and how this topic of reference, we can work together to be a multi-planetary society. Good morning, Inara. I'll let you take the floor.
Good morning, Meredith. So good to be here. I've got my coffee in hand. Hope everyone else out there has their beverage of choice. So excited to be back with Conversations for the Future. And we have an amazing guest today, Sensei Dave Armstrong. And I'm going to just read the official bio, and then we're going to get jump started. So Sensei Dave Armstrong served 24 years in the U.S. Air Force in various positions, such as communications, NATO executive officer, and inspector general, working in top secret facilities such as Cheyenne Mountain, NORAD, Shriver Air Force Base, Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, and COAC 7 NATO bunker in Greece. Sensei Dave is currently an author, motivational speaker, CEO of Unlimited Potential Network Academy, and founder and director of a nonprofit that works with youth that are in detention centers, and he's semi-retired in beautiful Greece. Dave, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's so strange every time I hear my bio. It's like, did that guy really do all of that? It doesn't seem. And actually, I tailor it down a little bit. I'm just a person that I'm always on the go and always trying to do something good and better for the world. So anyways, thanks for reading that bio. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And like myself, you're also a former foster child, right?
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. I hope we get into some of that. Yeah.
For sure. You know, that's one of the things I encountered you on social media, and I was really inspired because you had come out of the same sort of background that I had in foster care, and you've done so much. I look up to you. And the fact that you've achieved, it doesn't seem like you're stoppable.
No, I'm not. Yeah, that may sound. You know, a lot of people. I coach some clients, and a lot of clients that I have, a lot of people in general have a problem succeeding in life, like finding out what they're interested in, what they want to have become their why in their life, and then go after that. And I just, I've been fortunate to intrinsically, and then through, some work over the years, been able to really home in on things that are important to me and go after them. And I wish I could just wave a magic wand and bestow that upon everyone on the planet, because really, and even off the planet, since we're talking about space. So I really wish that there was just one solution to achieving their dreams. And I've been able to achieve just multiple dreams of mine. And it wasn't easy at the beginning, not having parents, growing up in juvenile detention and foster care and group homes and being shuffled around in multiple schools. And all of the horrible statistics that surround our youth in foster care, and these are real statistics, you know, not graduating high school, not getting college degrees, and you know, we all define success ourselves, right? But we don't intrinsically define success very often. You know, we don't really, and when I say intrinsically, in our heart and soul, go, you know what, when I achieve this, I'm going to feel very good about it, you know, and then work on the next thing and the next thing.
Well, and you look at the statistics, you know, the vision that we have for foster kids is often laid out from day one. Once you enter care, especially if it's long-term care, you're expected to end up on the streets or prostituting or dead early or on drugs. So these kids are basically fed into the system. You know, I myself grew up in that system. I made it out. I persevered, and I have kids I grew up with that are dead or ended up, you know, chewed up by the system. I often wonder, going through some of the same experiences, why do some of us turn out successful and others don't make it? What was the key for you? Was the military a big part of that?
The military was a huge part of that, but you know, when we ask that question, it comes down to a lot of things. It comes down to innate traits, you know, things that you're just kind of born with, developed traits and skills, mindset, and most importantly, and we know statistically, this matters. The two things that matter the most in anything, but we're going to hone in just on foster care and youth that are in the system, is intrinsic motivation, right? Resiliency, that drive within yourself. And then mentors, having good people around you that you can look up to and that you can confide in. And we know statistically, these two things make a huge difference. So I was extremely fortunate that I was just kind of born with some of those intrinsic traits, right? And then the extrinsic traits I was able to develop through mentorship, through people that took an interest in me, specifically two people, my martial arts instructor, Sensei Otto Johnson, and my CASA. CASA is a court-appointed special advocate. And my CASA, Ron Barnick, was a pilot in the Air Force, and he was the one that inspired me to join the Air Force. And I'll tell you a quick story. Ron was assigned this little hood kid. I was in and out of detention. I was bad. My first arrest was when I was 11 years old for armed robbery. And I got a copy of the arrest report, and I put it in my book. So I have two books. One's Gangs from Gangs to Grease, and the other one is Why Me, My Fight for Life. And I put a copy of the arrest report in my book to make sure that people understood that this is real. And I'm not an anomaly. This happens a lot of times for kids that are 11, 12, 13 years old. And so Ron took an interest in me, and he made it his duty, his assignment, to try to change my world, trying to change my life. And he succeeded. And it was because he did things with me. He took a vested interest in me. He wanted me to succeed and do well. And he would bring me over to his house. And Ron had these little trinkets from all over the world, from Korea, Japan, you know, Germany. And I would see these trinkets displayed, much like I have over here and throughout my house now. And I'd see these trinkets and I'd be like, oh, Ron, where's this from? Oh, Ron, what's this? And he'd tell me the story about, oh yeah, when I went to Italy and I was riding on the gondola, and it opened up a huge world that wasn't accessible to some hood kid, right? And when it opened up, I said, man, I want to be a part of that. I want to see what it's like to travel to these places and experience these people and these things. And so it inspired me to join the Air Force. But that wasn't without its own difficulty, because you have to pass the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Veteran exam. And so this test that you have to take, it's a minimum standard for all the Air Force or all the military, but each branch of service has a different standard that they're willing to accept. And the Air Force was the hardest of the branches. And so I took the ASVAB and I didn't score high enough for the Air Force. And we talked a little bit about, you know, determination and success and perseverance and resiliency. And so I could have said, all right, well, I'll join the Army instead. And I almost did. I almost did. The Army recruiters were hounding me. They were like, hey, come on. Navy were like, hey, come over here, talk to us. Space Force didn't exist back then in 1993. But the Air Force was like, sorry, maybe next time. But this really, really cool recruiter said, look, Dave, keep yourself out of trouble. In 6 months, you can retest the ASVAB. And during those 6 months, just study. He gave me a couple of study guides, references to study guides that I went and checked out from the library. And all I did was work a little bit. I did HVAC, which I absolutely did not like. I'm not built for that, even though I'm a big guy. I'm not built to be, hammering ducts into the walls and ceilings. And I stayed away from my homies. I stayed away from all the stuff that was pulling me into the lifestyle that I had grown up with, because I knew if I got arrested after I turned 18, if I got popped, doing, marijuana, if anything happened, it would keep me from joining the Air Force. Retested, scored high enough, got into the Air Force, and was elated. I mean, wow. And I've been able to, you read off the bio, I've been able to see some really, really, really cool places, and then end up retiring recently. Yeah, and I couldn't have done that. What's that?
I noticed you have Cheyenne on there, Cheyenne Mountain, of course.
Yeah. Cheyenne
now
Mountain.
Space Force, of course. How are you liking this new transition over to the Space Force?
You know what? I truly, I think it was something that was kind of needed. I think that anytime we can focus. So of course, we're talking about the military, government, and an entire force, but even as people, anytime we can focus in on something, one specific thing, a couple of specific things, and go, this is what we're focused on, it helps us become better at that, right? You get to really hone in your skills and your focus on that, instead of diversifying all of it like the Air Force was. We had space. And I worked projects that involved space, and it was really cool. But at the same time, we had all frontiers. So yeah. I think it's a good move. It's a logical move, at least in my opinion.
Sure. I like to see how Space Force is currently trying to create their culture building within the organization, and they're looking at a lot of private organizations to see how they're structuring things, what the force of the future is supposed to look like. And they're keying in on the youth, especially trying to get the youth in early, which I think is brilliant. We talked about the CASA program. For those who don't know, this is typically like a retiree that volunteers with foster kids on the weekends, for instance, and takes them out and does things, goes on trips and tries to inspire them or mentor them. Imagine if we were able to structure it to where Space Force created interception points for these youth that were structured. So if they were able to bring in Space Force CASA as a program, so many kids could have a similar story to yours. They could have that success early on. Oftentimes what makes foster kids such a danger to ourselves and to society would make us amazing in the military. If we were to reverse those those same sort of internal skills can be used on the streets very successfully, or it could be used in the service. So I would love to see us turn that around. And if we look at how many kids are in care, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's quite a bit. There are a lot of kids in care every single year, especially, those who age out. Imagine if we were to create a pipeline straight from those bad situations to give these kids a higher level of success. I would love to see a future where instead of saying, okay, well, this kid's going into long-term care, there's another one lost, before they even begin. What if we were to say, oh yeah, this kid's going to have higher STEM education potential. This kid's going to achieve something right away. I would love to turn that around. Do you think there's something we can do to inspire Space Force to take that on?
I hope so. And that's a conversation I want to have with somebody there at Space Force at recruiting, because, you're spot on. There's about 400,000, a little less than 400,000, about 390 something thousand right now, kids in foster care. About 20,000 of them age out of foster care every year, and a lot of them that age out don't have anything going for themselves. They don't have family. They don't have someone that they can rely on. They, my son hit me up for $1,000 last week. They don't have somebody like that. They have most of the time no one in their corner. So imagine being able to secure a job a job that potentially, I mean, the trajectory of space and where we're going to go over the next decade or two is going to be magnanimous, right? We're going to see leaps and bounds, and to be able to secure a position doing something in space right now, especially with Space Force, would be huge for these kids. And so the truth is, yeah, I didn't have a backup plan. Right. I joined the Air Force, but that was it. And my backup plan wasn't college. I wasn't very smart. I barely graduated high school. A lot of these kids are in the same situation I was in. Right. And so I created recently a nonprofit that goes in and speaks to kids that are aging out, as well as kids that are in detention. It's called Inspire to Aspire. I'm going to put the link in here right now.
Tell me more about that. I would love to know more
Yeah.
about it.
So I think that what you just said hit the nail on the head. If we can collaborate with Space Force in order to get potential new recruits, new spacemen, new airmen in Space Force that can really use it. And these kids know a lot of times that there's no default plan. There's no plan B or C. And so, much like I did, I dedicated everything I could to the Air Force in my position, and I was good. You know, I got a lot of special duty assignments, but you know, part of it again intrinsic, but the other part was extrinsic. The other part is, hey, I don't have a plan B, so I want to make sure that this succeeds no matter what. And
Well,
I
I
think
remember
we
going
can
to basic training. Sorry.
so on.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just said I want to see that happen with a lot of kids. I think we can make that happen. I just have to have the right conversation with the right people at Space Force, but and the Air Force. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I remember going through basic training. There were a lot of kids. It was their first time away from their parents, and they were miserable, and it was so hard for them. And I was like, they feed us. We get to work out. Like, we have stability. This isn't. My bed is amazing. You know, I loved it. I thrived in that. And I think most foster kids, especially those, you know, we're talking about 200,000 kids over 10 years who are craving stability. The Space Force could be mother and father for these kids. You know, like,
I
give them that
agree.
stability. We give our loyalty there. So I think we can turn a situation where really this destabilization of our youth can turn into a national security threat really easily, because these kids are going to find stability, whether that's in the cartels or the gangs or some other avenue. So if we were to create a pipeline, and we know that this isn't going to change anytime soon, really, foster care reform is historically almost impossible. It's very hard to get it, especially across the board. So if we can find some way of establishing that pipeline, we could turn what is potentially a national security threat into a national security advantage.
I agree. Yeah. I think you're spot on. That's a great conversation. And I I know it would work really well, and it would save a lot of lives. I know it.
So
A lot of kids don't even realize that Space Force or Air Force is even something that's a possibility, right? I wouldn't have if it wasn't for my CASA. If it wasn't for Ron, I wouldn't have thought, oh, I want to join the Air Force. Not even close.
Exactly. I think it's oftentimes that we lose possibilities because we don't know they're there. So it's about making them visible, and then having those mentors in place to, you know, not only show them the possibilities there, but really help them figure out how they make that transition into it. When we're talking about, you know, military people leaving the military and transitioning into the civilian world, they get, you know, there's all kinds of special guidance on how you leave the force and how you become a civilian and how you're going to thrive there. So if we understand that need, we definitely should see the need for transitioning these youth into these services. I think we could probably set up something that works with organizations like yours, with the scouting programs, with Space Force. There's so much overlap there that could be possible. From my own experience, the CASA program wasn't very great. You know, basically they took our attorneys away and they gave us these retirees, and, you know, they would take us out to the park on a weekend, but you got lucky. If we could remove the element of luck out and just really structure these systems and have, you know, like a military pipeline as the CASA program, I would love to see the changes that would happen. Yeah,
I have a conversation this week, I think tomorrow, the next day, with somebody at National CASA. So maybe I can grab somebody. If somebody is listening to this and knows somebody at Space Force recruiting, I could have a conversation all together, and we can see if we can figure that out. I think it would be a great opportunity for a lot of youth that absolutely need it. And you just don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely. Tim, I would love to bring you in for a second if you're on. Space Force Association, what do you think? Do we have Tim on? Tim may not actually be online right now. Okay, so we do have connections to Space Force Association. I would definitely love to connect you to them to see what kind of magic can be worked there. We have about 5 minutes. I'd love to have some questions. If we have any online or you're here in the room we'd like to ask, you can go ahead and unmute and talk to Dave directly.
Hi, this is Sarah. I'm the Director of Partnerships at SFA. So if you can reach out to me, I will put my LinkedIn.
Well, hi, Sarah, and thank you. How are you?
And you?
Life is perfect. No complaints at all.
Excellent.
All right, I'll look for your link here. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Sarah, I would love to get some feedback from you. What do you think about this idea of networking Space Force with organizations like Dave's?
You know, the sky's the limit. I mean, there's so much that we can do that I'm really kind of open to exploring, you know, any possibility to make an impact and to really open people's imaginations and about identifying potential career paths within the space economy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, so we'll get you connected, Dave. I guess we have a last few minutes. Can you just leave us with some more about your work? Maybe post some links so people can see where they can follow you. You do amazing talks. Dave has a phenomenal way of reaching people and getting conversations going. So you've got a lot of content out there.
Thank you. You know what? I feel so lucky, so blessed, so fortunate to have the life that I have. And I know that my destiny wasn't exactly what it is now. It wasn't supposed to be that. It wasn't supposed to be retired, living the dream in Greece. It wasn't supposed to be impacting a bunch of youth that need my guidance, our guidance as a team. It wasn't this life that I have, and it's not an Instagram life, but I built it, and so can anyone else. And I just love to see people thriving and succeeding, especially those that were dealt just a bad hand at life. You know, we didn't get to choose our parents. We didn't get to choose our hood. We didn't get to choose anything, our skin complexion, or our nationality, or where we grew up, you know, what country, what city, what trailer park, what hood. We didn't choose these things. They just happened to us. And sometimes we're on the fortunate side most of the time, and that's great. And then sometimes, you know, for 400,000 kids in the United States, it's a little less fortunate, but that doesn't mean that they can't succeed. And with the right people, the right community, the right involvement, the right mindset for them, they will succeed. I guarantee it. So, you know, a lot hasn't changed in foster care over the last 10 years. And before I go off to the next existence, I'm going to make a dent in the statistics and the overall program. No joke. Like, things will change because of these conversations and what we're doing now.
Absolutely. And I believe that the symbiosis here is that we can make a huge dent for these youth, but we can also allow these youth to make a massive impact for their communities, for their nation, with what they bring to the table, with their unique skill sets and ability, you know, hyper focus, hyper awareness, these kind of things that are embedded in long-term care that you learn to survive. So I'm looking forward to, you know, how we can work together. And thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thanks, everyone. I put my link to the Inspire to Aspire Youth Empowerment Program. If anyone's interested in a nonprofit or even helping out or connecting with the right people as Sarah did, I appreciate you all. I wish everybody a great week and great day.
Absolutely. Enjoy that sunshine in Greece. Send some our way.
Yeah, it's beautiful here today. Ciao, ciao. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was awesome. Thank you guys so much for being a part and just kicking this off with such, as you said it, inspiration. I think that's the word to take away from this. And, you know, it's always interesting where we come from, where we're going. You know, we can never forget where we came from, but it's always part of our story to where we're going next. And excuse me, the relationships that we have with other people. And so another great Conversations on the Moon. Inara, thank you so much. And our next guest, and also David, thank you very much.